When it comes to the TV show Lucky Hank, I'm going to be completely honest, I found it rather enjoyable. First of all, it's just nice to see Bob Odenkirk return to TV, being a new character, as we've seen him play Saul Goodman for quite some time. I think he did a great job when it comes to the comedy, but also the drama as well. The humour in this show is not only just Bob Odenkirk, who, whilst I would admit brings in the majority, a lot of other characters do as well, such as his fellow professor and best friend Tony, who I really believe they had the greatest chemistry on screen together. Not only were they funny together, but he was funny outside of hanging out with Hank as well. I also enjoyed his other work colleagues in his actual department, characters such as Billy Quigley and Emma Weimer, who I really enjoyed as characters, but sadly I don't think they got the right amount of screen time compared to, in my personal opinion, their lesser contemporaries such as Gracie Dubois, who I found was an okay character. She had her interesting moments but nothing too memorable, and her somewhat rival, that being Paul Rourke, who I always took as a bit of a self-entitled prick, as he was always giving it out to Gracie, but he was really terrible at taking it, and he got wound up. I found that quite baffling, as he was the one who started it. Whilst this show definitely is a comedy, it has a lot of dramatic parts as well, specifically with the characters Hank and his wife Lily, a plot which starts off small but definitely grows as the show continues. Throughout the show we get a lot of deep topics like abandonment through the character of Hank, whose father left him and his mother during his early teens, and we see that this character has a lot of resentment towards his dad that resurfaces once he reads an article about his dad retiring and wanting to spend time with his family after retirement. Throughout the show as well, it's intriguing to find out that this character is kind of going through a crisis of some sorts, as we notice that he has writer's block ever since his first novel and the reception he got from that. We notice that he isn't really inspiring or inspired to teach fellow students how to write, and he doesn't even really take his job that serious as well. We also notice throughout he is projecting a lot onto people. We notice this with a particular character, a work colleague's daughter who he's friends with. She really wants to become a teacher and take classes, but he is doing his best to put her off of that, and he ends up projecting his own feelings about working onto her. He also does this with his daughter. She is talking to him about life and all of that, and he starts to tell her that she should leave. She should be leaving the town they're in, when in reality it's he is the one that wants to leave. We see that whilst this character isn't particularly happy, he kind of struggles with change, something he suffered from even as a child, and this actually causes a situation between him and his wife, as he somewhat sparked a flame which got his wife to go after a position at work, and we see that this makes him uncomfortable, but she's not willing to bargain with it as she wants to move. And that's what I really liked about her character, the character of Lily, Hank's wife, as not only was she very funny in the show, but had an intriguing plotline. As very much like Hank, she isn't enjoying her job either, and she wants to take a position in New York, something that Hank proposed as somewhat as a false start. But once it became real and she actually went for an interview and has actually been given the job, he and her start to have these arguments. It actually shows that he is okay, but she decides to move to New York, pursue this dream. I found that quite cool. And then throughout the last episode, it was an okay watch. It wasn't overly funny, but still definitely enjoyable. We see Hank solve the resolution and make sure everyone in the English department and their jobs are secure. He also has a conversation with his dad and comes to the realization that he abandoned his family not through any other higher purpose than his love for convention panels, and he would even fabricate stories just to be there, just so he could talk, and he realises that he actually has made a better life than his dad, and it was a nice, interesting realisation for the character to have. I do have a few critiques about the show. First of all, like I said earlier, I felt certain characters who were very funny didn't get enough screen time compared to others who I felt like weren't as interesting and got more attention than they needed for their lesser storylines. And then when it comes to comedy side of things, I think it started off very well in the beginning, being very funny, but as the show continued, the humour started to not be there as much, but had more on the dramatic side of things during the latter half, which is somewhat understandable, but it is sad to see happen. Overall, I think it was an enjoyable watch, and whilst not the most overly funny programme, it still had a very intriguing plotline to follow. So is it good? I'd say it's very good. Rating wise, it's a 7.5 out of 10. Now when it comes to recommendations, I do have a few. First, I would say the show Loudermilk, as both the protagonists are quite miserable people, whilst I would say Hank is a little bit happier than him, as he has a family and he actually supports them. He seems a bit happier. Both are still somewhat miserable. They're not afraid of confrontation, and they don't really take their job that serious. Next is AP Bio, but I only recommend the first 2 seasons as they were my personal favourite. I recommend this show as both Jack and Hank are quite similar, as they don't take their job too serious. They're not a big fan of the children. The only difference I would say is that Jack, he somewhat manipulates the children, but as well as the teachers, into doing what he wants. Apart from that, shows are very alike. Definitely would recommend. Next, on the school subject, I would recommend the show Vice Principals, but specifically the first season. Whilst the show's on the more comedic side than Lucky Hank, I would still say it shares on the way they dive into characters and show a lot about the background and the life of these characters. Now, when it comes to other recommendations, I will recommend Nobody because of Bob Odenkirk and his great performance, not only being dramatic but comedic as well. And then Better Call Saul was like this, very funny but also very dramatic, but unlike this, it's also very violent. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for the TV show Lucky Hank. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and as always, thank you and have a nice day.